Coincidences often bring a surprising feeling with many different emotions. But in my case, I'm not so happy. Before getting to the video content, I hope you'll leave a like and subscribe to the channel so we can have more motivation to produce more videos. Hello, I'm Katie. Since I was little, I was always teased by my friends in class for being a strange kid because I didn't look like my biological parents, and my younger self looked very ugly. While my parents not only did not encourage or comfort me, but they also treated me so badly and belittled all my efforts. So gradually, I developed my own inferiority complex about my family. Even when I grew up, becoming an adult, successfully went through puberty, and had a much better appearance, my inferiority complex was still there. We have argued so much that it caused my parents and I to gradually have more distance from each other. I want to take a DNA test to see if I'm truly my parents' biological child, but they always refuse my request as if they're trying to hide something from me. The climax of the argument took place on a day when it rained heavily. That day was a long and tiring day for me, when I was reprimanded by my teacher for a mistake that I wasn't even the one who did. I came home feeling sad and tired and lay down in the bed. But instead of being cared for, my father scolded me for no reason and blamed me for being too lazy. I was very upset. So my father and I had a big argument. Because I couldn't hold my emotions in at that time, I accidentally said all the discomforting things in my heart after a long time. This provoked my father and caused him to slap me so hard that I fell down. I looked at my father with devastated eyes. There had always been such animosity between my father and I, but this was the last straw, so I was very shocked. That night, I left home and cut off my family. I realized that living alone is really difficult. Going to school and working for money to live day by day is not easy. I had tried many hard jobs in order to not have to return to that house that is full of sad memories. After living alone outside for a while, I met a guy named Nick, who was quite handsome. At first, he appeared to be an understanding and kind guy, always helping me, so I felt very moved, and then we officially started dating. But a short time later, I found out that he was a parasitic man with a patriarchal personality and always wanted to control me and didn't let me have my own private time. I have suggested breaking up with him many times, but he stubbornly refused to agree and even almost used violence, which made me extremely upset. The cost of living also increased, making me tired and helpless. Another morning, as usual, I took advantage of my little time to work part-time at a familiar small jewelry store. It would have been a very normal morning if nothing had happened, but it was like God was testing my patience. A group of robbers suddenly appeared. They broke down the glass door and rushed into the grocery store where I was standing. They were armed, and one of them immediately pointed a gun at me, making me panic.
Take all the money out of the tray immediately! Don't let me repeat myself or you won't be able to keep your life, bitch!
Yes, I'll get it right away. The robber continued to press the gun hard against my head, leaving me trembling in fear. Meanwhile, the two remaining guys competed to plunder all the jewelry in the store. After poaching for a while, they started discussing something with each other. Then one of the three guys started looking towards me, smiling evilly. Realizing something was wrong, I decided to run as quickly as they got closer. But just as I was about to escape, one of them noticed and immediately caught me. Suddenly, I remembered that under the table, there was an emergency alarm button. While they were distracted, I slid my hand down to the alarm button and immediately pressed it. The alarm went off, making the robbers startled, and they tried to run away. One of the other robbers rushed towards me, intending to take me hostage. But at that moment, from outside the door, a stranger wearing a black hoodie rushed forward, kicking hard at the robber who was holding me, making him fly far away. And at the same time, neatly took care of all three of them with just his bare hands, making me so surprised that I froze. All three robbers collapsed on the spot, and the guy wearing the hoodie took off his hood. At this moment, I fell in love. It was love at first sight, because his extremely handsome appearance captivated me immediately.
Where are you going?
He's calling me and I can't concentrate anymore. Why am I so tired? My eyes. Because I was so shocked that so many things had happened at the same time, I fainted at that moment without knowing anything. Waking up in a dreamy state, I realized I had been taken to the hospital. Through the doctor's wards, I realized that the guy wearing the black hoodie brought me here. And I realized that it was him who handled the robbers. I was discharged from the hospital after fully recovering and immediately went to the jewelry store where I worked to listen to the information about the incident and learned that those robbers had been dealt with, but the guy's whereabouts were unknown. He didn't get mentioned at all. A short time later, my life turned back to normal, but I was always on the clouds. Couldn't stop thinking about that guy. Everything kept going around and around in my head, making it practically impossible for me to concentrate on my work. There seems to be a feeling that this man looks very familiar, but I can't remember who he is. Besides, things gradually got worse when that bum Nick appeared again to bother me. The climax was one afternoon after work. I was on my way home as usual when he suddenly appeared, blocked my way home, and demanded for money as if I were his debtor. I tried to avoid him, then asked him to leave so I could return home, but he was still so stubborn, pulling my hand back. At this point, I couldn't hold back my anger and snatched my hand back, and immediately said goodbye to him. But instead of leaving, he angrily dragged me to the corner of the alley, then pulled out a knife to threaten me, making me extremely scared. Just right when he put the knife to my neck, a strange hand suddenly grabbed Nick's wrist and squeezed his hand hard, causing the knife to fall and make him cry out in pain. The familiar figure of a man appeared again, and was none other than the guy who rescued me the day before. This time I was once again captivated by that handsome, manly beauty. Nick sat up in pain, held a knife, and rushed towards the guy. I shouted and worried to warn him, but it felt too late, so I could only close my eyes tightly. Opening my eyes slowly, I saw Nick had been knocked on the ground by him.
Who are you?
At that time, I seemed to see the guy whispering something to Nick, but because he said it so softly, I couldn't hear clearly what it was. I then saw a look of panic on Nick's face. He crawled back a few steps, then immediately bowed his head to the ground, clearly regretful, and ran away immediately. This made me confused, not knowing what that guy's true identity was. Slowly, I approached him. He suddenly came closer, making me startled, and took a few steps back, pressing my back against the wall. Huh? What? How does he know my name, Miss Katie? Hello. Aren't you a little too close? He was so close to me that I felt like I might faint from embarrassment. Have I fallen in love with this guy? Turns out his name is the same as mine. Katie! What an interesting coincidence. After talking for a while, I learned that he had a really difficult past when his parents passed away when he was young, and he had to struggle since then. In addition, I learned that the main reason Nick was so afraid of this guy was because he was the mafia boss here and was feared by many people. I can only sigh and wish good luck to Nick that he can escape this fate. But there is one thing that I find very strange, which is, why does he always appear at the right time to help me and bring such a strange, familiar feeling? Could it be that fate had brought us so close to each other unintentionally? Looking at his red face, I just wanted to confess my love to him immediately so that no one else would steal this handsome guy from me. I was afraid that if I stayed for too long, I would say something random, so I said goodbye to Katie and returned home, looking into his eyes as if he wanted to tell me something. But I didn't pay much attention and ran home quickly in embarrassment. That night when I was sleeping, once again I dreamed about the argument between me and my family. But strangely, this time the person scolding me was this guy Katie, making me wake up in fear. Thinking about his image, I suddenly thought of my father's image. A headache came and made me feel uncomfortable. Maybe Katie is my parents' biological child? I brushed off my thoughts and consoled myself that such a myth could not happen. Waking up in the morning with dark circles due to a sleepless night, I decided to go directly to my parents to make things clear. And whatever comes, comes. I encountered an extremely shocking scene when I looked from the gate into the yard. I saw Katie talking to my parents right before my eyes. Too shocked and not believing what I had just seen, I slowly, cautiously approached to listen. Slowly approaching the place where the three of them were talking. Just as I got there, I was suddenly hit in the head by a heavy object, causing me to pass out straight away. I woke up with a severe headache. I looked around dreamily and discovered that I was tied up tightly and gagged. So no matter how hard I tried to struggle and scream, it was useless. Just then, someone's footsteps appeared. At that time, I tried to use some strength to get up, and the surprising thing was that the person who appeared in front of me was the freeloader, Nick.
Oh, look who's here. You leave me for that damn guy, Katie? I'll make him regret it for the rest of his life.
He smiled cunningly and brought the gun up to my face with a smug look on his face. There are so many things happening now, and I can only cower in fear and pray for myself to escape from this danger. Suddenly I discovered that the rope tied to my wrist was gradually loosening. While he wasn't paying attention, I tried to use all my strength to untie the knot in my hand as gently as possible to avoid making him notice. But just then, when I was about to untie myself, a huge explosion happened, causing Nick to alert me and pull me in, pointing his gun threateningly. Behind the smoke, a man's figure appeared. The image became clearer, and that's when I realized it was him, Katie. I never have felt so happy. But Nick now had a weapon ready. He threatened to shoot if he didn't do what he said. He forced Katie to kneel down and humiliated him by repeatedly kicking his body with his feet. Unable to bear the sight of seeing the person I loved being beaten, I used all my strength to rip off the rope tied to my wrists and punched him hard in the stomach, causing him to kneel in pain. Not missing the opportunity, Katie immediately rushed up and beat up the other guy. In the end, Nick was finally punished by the law. After all, I learned that all my suspicions were correct. Katie was actually my parents' biological child, because when we were children, our name tags were too similar, so there was a confusion leading to the wrong person. Above all, they kept Katie's information secret for so long because he was chosen to be a secret agent to investigate crimes in the underworld. And because of that, he had to constantly hide his true identity in order to keep me safe. He also said that he had been planning to tell me since we met, but at that time there were many problems. So, it wasn't until now that everything was resolved satisfactorily. I rushed to where Katie was standing, and we kissed passionately.